watching TV and listening to the radio.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Walisema mnywa maji kwa mkono mmoja,
kiu yake ipale pale, ndiposa tumekuletea wewe mtazamaji wetu
mkono mwingine ili kukata kiu yako na ari yako ya ufahamu.
Naam, ngoma imechezwa mtazamaji, basi hatuna budi kulisakata na kukuletea wewe ufahamu wa kaunti yako,
tukiangazia masuala ya siasa na uongozi,
jamii na itikadi,
maendeleo na changamoto katika kaunti yako. Ungana nami Belinda William,
nami Emmanuel Marwa
kwenye makala ya Gatuzi Langu kila siku ya Jumatatu saa 5:30 hadi saa 6:30.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Welcome back. Sorry about that technical hitch. Take that story again. We were talking about, the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who castigated leaders in government who continue criticizing religious leaders who have been taking on the church, which criticized the government in the manner in which it is being run. Gachagua says the criticism of the church is similar to what he experienced during the late President Daniel Arap Moi's regime. He says, like former President Uhuru Kenyatta, he's currently sitting at home watching TV and listening to the radio.
When our spiritual fathers speak, they don't just speak in vain. I don't think over 30 bishops can meet and do a statement from nowhere. Kama kuna viongozi wanafanya public participation every day, ni viongozi ya kidini, kwa sababu wako na waumini every day, every weekend. And if there are people who know what the ground is saying, is our church leaders. Kwa hivyo tukisikia viongozi wetu wamesema kitu, tuwasikize na tuwaheshimu. We were very disappointed when our Catholic bishop spoke and we saw some members of parliament abusing them, lecturing them, talking down to our spiritual fathers. Those are anointed men and women of God, and we must respect them. And I'm happy that yesterday our president, Dr. William Ruto, acknowledged that the Catholic bishops had raised some issues, and he committed to listen to them for them to be addressed. That is the way to go. So nataka kuambia hawa waheshimiwa wanatukana maaskofu. I saw the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly lecturing Catholic bishops like children. Mimi nataka niambie nyinyi viongozi, acheni kiburi. Acheni kiburi. Those of us who have been around for a while, we know the politics of this country vile naenda. Mimi nilikuweko kwa serikali ya Moi, nilikuweko kwa serikali ya Kibaki, nilikuweko ya Uhuru Kenyatta, nakuwa kwa hii ya William Ruto. Na hiyo majivuno muko nayo na hiyo maringo ndio ilikuweko 1990 wakati ya Moi, ya kutukana maaskofu na kuwaongelesha vile mnataka. And we all know what were the consequences of being abusive to spiritual leaders. Nyinyi mnaweza kuona muko na nguvu sana, muko na mamlaka na mnajisikia sana ya kwamba mnakosea maaskofu wetu heshima.
Well, this as other leaders continued to tear into the church, accusing it of being unfair in its criticism of the government.
Tunaomba Baba Askofu, munapoongoza kanisa, hata sisi mtuguide. Saa zingine tukikosea mturudishe kwa laini. Ile tu tunaomba kwa heshima kanisa, mkituongoza, kwa sababu sisi tukiwa chini yenu, uongozi wetu ni wa dunia. Uongozi wenu umetoka kule juu na wa kuongoza kiroho. Kidogo tukikosea mara moja ama mbili, tunaomba mnatukosesha ama mnaturekebisha kwa njia ya upendo. Mnaturekebisha kwa njia ya uongozi. Tafadhali tunaomba msiwe mnatukemea hadharani. Msiwe mnatukemea mbele ya watu. Tuite tu, tukikataa ndio mtukemee. Tuite kama viongozi, tuongoze, tuguide, tuambie direction inaenda namna hii, namna hii, namna hii.
Ni kweli serikali ina changamoto. Hakuna serikali 100% ambayo itatekeleza kila kitu. Si ya county, si ya kitaifa. Hata kwa nyumbani. Hata kwa boma lako kuna shida. Lakini wakati unataka kurekebisha, hata pale nyumbani unaitisha mashauri. Maaskofu, ile heshima ambayo dunia inawapa, ambayo umma wa Kenya inawapa, mkiona mzee yuko uchi, msiite majirani na kuambia angalieni mzee yule, kama vile ilivyofanyika juzi. Rais ni mtoto wenu. Pale Ikulu hawezi kuwafungia. Leo hii askofu aseme kwamba tunataka kumuona rais kuzungumza mambo ya Kenya ambayo haiendi sawa. Sidhani rais atasema hataki kuwaona.
I like the fact that the entire country, the discussion has been about what the church said. And I think this should be this should be the norm. The church taking on the state now that there is no opposition in the country, the opposition joined the government. The church should be basically taking on the government in as far as things concerning men are concerned. Anytime the church sees the government misbehaving, the church should speak out, and the conversation will be as it is today. Elsewhere, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja defended President William Ruto against public backlash directed at his government over failed promises. While attending a church service in Soweto, Sakaja delved into a spirited defense for President Ruto, noting that he needs to be accorded fair ridicule and time. The time short, saying that the time that the president has been in office is very short. The governor argued that the problems bedeviling Kenyans have long existed under the previous regimes, and it would be unjust to expect President William Ruto to address them swiftly. Sakaja therefore urged Kenyans to exercise patience and allow President Ruto to actualize his ambitious promises, noting that positive change has already begun to take effect.
Nusi harufu mzuri katika taifa letu inaanza kuja. There is an aroma of good work happening. Your Excellency, we need to give you time. You have only been president for 2 years. 2 years. If you look at other governments, they took time. Serikali ya Kibaki tunafurahia Thika Road, si ndio? Thika Road ilijengwa kwa mwaka wake wa 5 ndo aliweza kufanya Thika Road. Expressway, Your Excellency, muliweza kufanya on your 9th year is when you did this expressway. Not in year 1, not in year 2, not in year 3. Juzi nikiwa Murang'a, I went to observe this Northern Collector tumefanya. Watu wakaniambia mambo ya Mau Mau Road. Nikauliza Mau Mau Road, it's very important. Lakini Mau Mau waliacha vita mwaka gani? 1963. Kulikuwa na rais wa kwanza 14 years. Barabara labda ilikuwa mzuri ikaanza kuharibika. Kwa kona wa pili 24 years there was no road there. Kwa kona wa tatu 10 years barabara haikuwa. Wa 4 10 years barabara bado. But you 2 years all the blame is on you. Is that fair? In 2 years atatue shida ya 60 years. You know, Excellency, to whom much is given, much is expected. Ni vile tunajua wewe ni mnoma. That's why people wanakuharakisha, because we know who you are. But when we are realistic, in 2 years surely. Situpate rais wetu wakati afanye kazi. Na tunajua utafanya kazi mzuri.
Sio ati Wakenya wanakukimbiza na miaka 2 na kumekuwa na marais wengine. Wakenya pia ni watu wa imani, wako na imani. Wewe uko na nguvu na uwezo wa kubadili maisha ya Wakenya. Kwa hivyo tutaendelea kukimbiza wewe. Hujakimbizwa, tutakukimbiza, utasalimiwa, na wewe fanya bidii zaidi mpaka yale mambo uliambia Wakenya yatimie, na sisi kwa bunge tutahakikisha ya kuwa tunakupeleka mbio ili utimize yale mambo uliwaahidi Wakenya, na tuko pamoja na wewe kushirikiana kwa mambo ya kuunda sheria ya kuhakikisha ya kuwa tumefanikisha mambo hasa ya maendeleo ya hawa Wakenya.
Interesting conversations going on in the country. You know how people have been talking about Elon Musk, saying all kind of things. This guy is not a Christian. He's not what? He's not this. He's not that. I have come to learn to shut my mouth because you just don't know what relationship an individual has with God. And until you get close to them, you should never talk about people. There are people who have, proclaimed from the top of the mountains of their love for Christ, and then they behaved funnily. And there are people who probably never publicly come out to confess Christ. And some of the things they do just leave you wondering, is this guy a Christian? Now, talking about Elon Musk, the Christ Embassy Church has awarded Elon Musk an award for being the best supporter, guess what, of the Rhapsody of Realities booklet in the world. Elon Musk was awarded or given the award by Pastor Chris Oyakhilom's church in the United States. All right, now let's take a look at the newspapers. Tell you what, if all things remain the same and by the will of God we see 2027, there's an individual who will be in the presidential race, an individual who majority of people wished he could be but never thought he will be. Can you read that? That's Matiang'i. Matiang'i has stopped Botswana's poll exports. It says former Interior Minister Fred Matiang'i has signed a contract with a firm led by an ex-Israeli Mossad agent called Ari Ben Menashe, who powered the surprise victory of Mr. Duma Boko in the recent Botswana polls as he seeks to unseat President William Ruto in the 2027 election. I tell you, this is a headache for the president. Oh my goodness. Remember when the Gen Zs went to the streets, the name they kept on saying was Matiang'i. They wanted Matiang'i for president. So now he's thrown his weight. He's going to be in the ballot in 2027 if Christ tarries. And, the Lord keeps him and keeps all of us. He's going to be in that ballot. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. And then there's a report that came out that says that more Kenyans have sunk into poverty. The new report revealed how the high cost of living and unemployment sunk millions of Kenyans into poverty, leaving 2 in 5 Kenyans poor in 2022, with 1 in 3 citizens unable to meet their minimum food requirements. This is a serious indictment because if you look at some of the majority of people have moved from middle class and have then gone to the lower level. The number of people who've moved from middle class going up to the upper class, according to this report, are very few. But 3, they say 2 out of every 5 Kenyans are poor. 2 out of every 5 Kenyans are poor. And they say 1 in 3 citizens is unable to meet their minimum food requirements. You know what that means? Out of every 3 people you see in the streets, 1 of them has not eaten and will probably not eat food today. 1 out of every 3 people you meet in the streets has not had something to eat. Then the second page of The Nation says why HIV/AIDS is killing more men than women in Kenya. You know, it's so strange. This HIV thing, we even forgot HIV existed. Then there's a story here, auctioneers go after Karen Nyamu over 1.25 million shillings rent arrears. She's not paid rent. And then KNTC shake-up tied to expected billions from Afrizim Bank. This is an interesting story. The positioning for control of billions in loans from Afrizim Bank could be the reason behind the recent shake-up at the Kenya National Trading Corporation that saw board chairperson Hussein Debasso sacked and demoted to the less lucrative position of council member at the National Youth Service. Before his sacking, Mr. Debasso had voiced his opposition to the appointment of Ms. Lucy Anangwe as the corporation's managing director, but he was overruled by Investments, Trade and Industry Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvurya. And by the way, just in case you don't know, this lady Lucy Anangwe had been adversely mentioned in the cooking oil scandal. Now, the cooking oil scandal came through this particular parastatal. So, I don't know, man. Ruto defends state's projects amid criticism. And then there's a story on page 7, scramble for Uhuru as political volcano in the mountain erupts. The back page of The Nation, fast flight, fast international race. Miriam Jelagat dream comes true. It's an interesting story. Then we got the Standard where Gachagua says, is life better now that I'm impeached? It's a question. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua yesterday wondered aloud why Kenyans are facing the same problems he was being blamed for, even as President William Ruto said he will ensure his broad-based government thrives. And then we've got chronic wastage in schools as 200,000 students drop out. 200,000 students drop out. And it says, while government insists that all KCPE candidates transition to secondary school, the number of students sitting the KCSE tells a different story. Then, on page 4, you got transition crisis, the story I just told you. And then page 5, you have foreign policy review to capture global shifts. Then Gachagua to Ruto, I'm out of the way, now deliver to Kenyans. Then the back page of the Standards, you've got Retegui, the striker, Italian football longed for. This guy must be doing very well. And then the Star, independent, fresh, and different. That's what they say about their paper. Quoting the church, Ruto Rigathi all-out war. And then the inner page of the Star, you have a Dingi Mlolongo daycare inspires Sabrina to give infants quality start. And then why ex-President Kibaki did not deal with Anglo leasing scandal. All these are involved, are included in the book that has been written by NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua. If you get an opportunity, get a hold of that book. This should be a good read. And then Kilifi Police Boss Hadi named new anti-extremism chief. Just in case you didn't know, Hadi is a woman. Then inside Ruto Gachagua, big battle for church support. House helps earning raised to 16K in review. Now, surely, you raise these house helps salaries, but you have no mechanism of ensuring or enforcing. It's not going to happen unless this is in a different country. Then the sports on the Star exit explained, playing at home is a source of motivation, says Olunga. Stars captain wants government and FKF to fix infrastructure. Harambee Stars line up after their recent match against Cameroon in Kampala. They did not advance to the Africa Cup of Nations finals. I wish I would say I'm surprised, I really do. I'm not. I would have been surprised if they did. I'm not being negative. I'm just looking at the precedents that have been set by the football team in Kenya. I mean, we used to be a big giant in football in Kenya. But all that seems to be a thing of the past. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we are going to have a discussion on some of these things, including Matiang'i. Matiang'i is going to be a major factor in 2027.